And we're recording.
Great.
There we go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joy Grinko, and I am one of the career advisors here at UCM. And we are getting ready for our first Career Readiness video podcast series. And I'll have Chelsea say hello, and we'll introduce our guest.
So my name is Chelsea Miyashiro. Like Joy, I'm a career advisor here at UCM, and we're really excited for this opportunity to connect with you guys in a different space and bring a lot more career readiness tips and tricks to you all. So Joy, would you like to introduce our guest?
Yeah, so today we have Jonathan Javier, I'm hoping I pronounced that right, from Wonsulting. So we are so excited to have him here and share his awesome company, his background, and the great stuff he's doing. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, and what you're currently doing now, and a little bit about Wonsulting.
Of course. Well, first off, Joy and Chelsea, so wonderful to be on this podcast. I really appreciate it. My name is Jonathan Javier. I'm the CEO of Wonsulting, and it's a career consulting firm which mission is to turn underdogs into winners. So helping those who come from non-traditional backgrounds and help them get into their dream careers. And before that, I used to actually work at Snapchat, Google, and Cisco before doing Wonsulting full time. But I still remember being a student, being a new grad, and not knowing exactly where I wanted to go in my career. And I remember I was just applying to all these different jobs and hoping for the best, as they say, just applying. But I realized that, especially coming from my background, which was a non-target school and non-traditional, where a lot of rejections happen when I simply just applied, I realized that there are a lot of different mechanisms and a lot of different strategies that should be taught to a lot of the different students and professionals who are trying to get into their careers. So yeah, so far I've done a bunch of those different things. And yeah, I mean, social media has been amazing. I just got to over 700K on TikTok recently. I'm actually listening to this right now. I'm actually doing TikTok resumes. I'm actually opening for them in about 5 hours. So if anyone wants to check that out. And yeah, just excited to share some insights, and hopefully we can turn more underdogs into winners, as we love to say at Wonsulting.
I love that. And my question for you is, I first of all love your TikTok content. So whoever has TikTok, definitely they should follow you. But I'm curious about how you managed to get into some of these really big companies like Google, Cisco, and Snapchat. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different pillars in regards to how to get into these companies, but I'll break down two of the most important parts. I mean, number one is, of course, networking. I think networking is extremely important. Now, why networking is important is not only for getting, as I say, referrals or recommendations specifically into the company, but also getting insights for what these positions entail that will allow you to tailor it to your resume, which leads to the next part about your resume. Your resume is extremely important because companies want to see the specific skills that you have, whether it's hard skills like SQL, Python, etc., whether it's soft skills such as collaboration, etc., prioritization. By combining those both together, you're able to get into a lot of these different companies. And I'll probably share a lot of the strategies that I've personally utilized to get into them. But it wasn't a walk in the park. Honestly, it was a lot of different rejections. But what I love to say is rejection is truly redirection as long as you react to it in the right way. So hopefully these strategies can turn all those rejections you're getting, if you're getting some, into redirections.
Great. Chelsea?
Yeah, I love that. Sorry. Rejecting is redirecting. I love that so much. So, I mean, you mentioned and touched on it, some of the strategies that you might have used. That kind of leads us into, what are your 5 core tips on resume writing?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about this today. I think that number one, your structure of your resume is extremely important. On average, recruiters take 6 seconds. If you actually Google this too as well, recruiters take 6 seconds to look at your resume. That's what they say it's on average. I think 6 seconds is the average to make an educated decision of whether or not to keep looking at your resume. So you want to make sure that your resume is clean, literally in the formatting and the structure. I have a structure that's ATS friendly, as they like to say. Definitely utilize it. It's on wonsulting.com/resources, and I can send it to y'all too as well. Definitely utilize a resume that specifically has a good structure, because if you are a recruiter hiring manager, just think about, if you're a recruiter hiring manager, if you saw a resume for 6 seconds, what would you think of first? So that's number one, the structure. Number two, the impact metrics specifically in your resume. Now, this is significant because you don't want to just say, oh, I increased awareness, I increased traffic, period, right? You want to instead show the impact that you made specifically in that position or in that experience. So instead, you can say, I increased traffic on social media channels by 13%, right? Now it says a specific metric behind it. That's the second part. The third part is implementing hard skills onto your resume. Now, these are important because recruiters and hiring managers have qualifications that they're looking for. Let's say they're looking for someone who is an experienced in SQL and Tableau. You want to make sure that's throughout your resume because then that shows that you're a qualified candidate for that role. Like I said before, picture yourself as a recruiter or a hiring manager. Would you hire someone without SQL or Tableau experience, or would you hire someone with it? So you want to make sure those hard skills are throughout your resume. Number 4 is specifically action verbs. You should start your experiences with always action verbs, right? Do not use weak action verbs. Now, I made a lot of videos in regards to this. I say, do not use these words on your resume. And a lot of people are like, why not use those words? For example, if I say assisted instead of collaborated, right? Collaborated shows that you're collaborating with senior management. It's a stronger word to utilize specifically in your resume, which shows impact. We're trying to drive that impact metric and put that on your resume. So action verbs. Last but not least, what I'd recommend, and I'm assuming a lot of your students, your resume can be 2 pages, but would recommend 1 page. And why I say this is because a lot of folks will say, well, Jonathan, I have 2 pages of experiences. In reality, you can condense it to 1 page. Trust me. 1-page resume is clean, concise, and very easy for the recruiter to read. I would recommend 1 page if you're a student or new grad. If you have 10 plus years experience, according to the recruiters, it's totally fine to have 2+ pages. But since you're a student or a new grad, I would recommend 1 page. So those are the 5 tips that I would recommend, and hopefully that's helpful.
So helpful. I'm gonna notice a lot of head nodding. So fully appreciated all that content that you've provided, and absolutely agree with all of that. 100%.
Yeah, it's great because it aligns with all of our philosophies and everything we communicate to students on a day-to-day basis. So it's so reassuring to know that, you know, that content is just across the board accurate, and we're excited. So
yeah.
Next question would be, so I know you touched a little bit about your motto of where underdogs turn into winners, and you kind of alluded to that as being first generation, underrepresented populations. So what are some strategies for these people that you would provide or offer and consult in your company on, you know, crafting their resume, or, you know, what are you telling them that's unique?
Yeah, what I would say, especially those who come from underdog backgrounds, well, number 1, everyone honestly comes from an underdog background. That's what I think, because, you know, of course you could be a minority in first gen, which is absolutely amazing, but also you could be rejected for roles, and that can make you an underdog too as well. I think what's very important, especially coming from that underdog background, is collaborating or reaching out to folks that are specifically from that same background. All right. So for example, what I'd recommend is for women, for them to reach out to Women in Tech, right? Because Women in Tech is an organization, so specifically an employee resource group that you can reach out to. That's one part. You can both say, hey, I saw that you're a woman in tech. I'm an aspiring woman in tech. I want to get into product. I'd love to connect. You're establishing that common ground between both of you. All right. Secondly, of course, your university, y'all should be utilizing UCM, Alumni Center, utilizing the career services to specifically find different folks who graduated from your school that work at specific companies or in positions that you may be interested in. That is something that I wish I utilized in school more. So definitely everybody listening in, go to your career center and career services and check it out. Okay. That's the second part. Last but not least, I'd recommend the commonality of organizations. Now, if you're a part of organization on campus, which I hope many of you are, for example, I was involved with student government, I would go find people who specifically graduated from my school, but also people who are this part of the same organization at other schools. And I would say, hey, I saw that you're part of student government at UCM. I went to UCR. I'd love to connect with you and hear more about your story. All right. So I would say those 3 things. Last but not least, when you're reaching out to people, make sure that when you reach out, that you don't just say, hey, I want a job, right? Because if you just say, I want a job, it's very transactional or it's very one-sided. You want to make sure that you establish a rapport and actually network and know more about their story and learn more about in regards to how they even got to where they are today, so you can follow in their footsteps. So you can utilize all those different things to network and then take that information, those insights, and put it on your resume, right? So always try to do that, because then you're going to be able to tailor your resume towards that specific field, but also meet connections and possibly mentors.
I love that. And you're kind of transitioning us straight into digital networking. So what would be your top 5 tips on that? I know you covered a little bit right now, but what would you say is just you gotta know this information?
Yeah, I'll split it up into different sections. So I think that reaching out to people is, of course, great. I think it's called proactive networking. That's what we call it at Wonsulting, right? So proactive recruiting, actually. So one thing to do is find the commonalities between you and another person. That could be in regards to your school, your organization, your background, right? Reach out to those specific folks and mention that common ground in your personalized invite when you're networking with them, because they're more inclined to actually add you back. So that's the first part. How you identify them is very simple. You just filter it on LinkedIn, or you can just search, let's say, UCM, and then search the specific position, and you can find all the different folks who are in the position. That's number one. Number two, always send a personalized invite. I actually have about 6,000 pending requests right now. And the reason why I don't accept them is because they just don't send personalized invites. Personalized invites are very easy to do. An introduction of yourself, why you want to connect, and a thank you. Very simple, yet effective. Yet people still don't do it. So that's the second part, sending that personalized invite, right? The third part is in regards to making content. Now, making content is extremely important, because according to my stats, actually, I just did a poll about 2 weeks ago, 59% of people do not post on social media in general, which is insane, right? And according to statistics, about less than 2% of people actually post on LinkedIn. So if you're part of the 2%, or if you're a part of the 41% that actually are posting on social media, you can give yourself a value prop. So for example, let's say that I'm posting on LinkedIn in regards to what I'm interested in getting into. You never know if a recruiter or hiring manager is looking at your profile, and then you can network with them and get a specific position. So that's the third part, which is reactive recruiting, where opportunities come to you instead of you always having to seek opportunities. Number 4, your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile is important, because if I'm reaching out to, let's say Chelsea, I'm reaching out to Chelsea, and I don't have, let's say, anything on my experiences, I don't even have a headshot, that person's, or Chelsea's, probably not going to connect with me, right? Remember that your LinkedIn is a representation of your personal brand. Go search Wendy Javier and go click the first profile, the one that's working at Wonsulting. It's actually a fake profile. We called it Wendy Javier. It used to be Wonsulting Wendy, but they kept deleting it. So we just call it Wendy Javier, aka my sister or my mom. I don't know. But anyways, you can look at it and you can see everything you need specifically in your profile. That's number 4. Last but not least, number 5, reach out to people and don't be scared to reach out. I think what happens is we self-reject ourselves too many times, where we'll reach out and we'll expect them to reject us or not basically respond. You never know if you never try, honestly. And you focus on the people who respond to you rather than the people who don't. This is super important. I get people all the time that say, Jonathan, I reached out to 100 people and 10 people didn't respond. 10 people only responded to me. 90 people didn't. I say, why are you focusing on the 90 people? Focus on the 10, right? You focus on the people who respond to you. You focus on the people who support you rather than the people who don't respond. So I would say those 5 tips for networking, which are specifically proactive recruiting, reactive recruiting, and also keeping that positive mental mindset.
Yeah, I love that. Especially, we always tell students statistics that 80% of jobs are found through networking, which is just an absolutely insane number when you think about it. So the value of, having LinkedIn and having those career conversations with people working in industry is just so valuable. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I agree.
So like in that proactive recruiting, are there certain strategies on like reaching out to those people? I know you mentioned messaging, but we've had students that are like, well, how do I find these people? Or like, what if they don't allow messages? Like it's only follow, or like, please, I need to have premium, but I don't have the money to pay for that. How do you kind of work around those different things, or like what are those best practices for that proactive recruiting?
Yeah, I would say most people don't send a personalized invite, like I said before. But another thing that's very core is that when people reach out, their focus is on themselves.
Sure.
How can I benefit rather than how can the person that I'm reaching out to benefit from me? I think that's super important to identify, because in one of the books that I love reading, which is How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I've always utilized this different strategy or different mindset, is that when you reach out to someone, make it about them. Be their hype man. Instead of saying, hey, Joy, I want a job at Google. Let's say Joy works at talent acquisition at Google. Just making it up. All right. Awesome job, right? And I say, hey, Joy, could you get me a job at Google? As the first message. She probably won't respond, right? But once I say, hey, Joy, I saw that you've been working at Google for the past 4 years and also graduated from UCM. I've actually just graduated from UCM and had a great experience there with XYZ. Just wanted to reach out to a fellow alum to see, to hear more about your story going from, let's say she used to work in retail, going from retail to the tech industry. I'd love to chat sometime in the next few weeks, and then give them a date. See the difference between the first one and the second one? The first one is you asking for a job. It's all about you. But the second one is asking about them. So that's very core and key, especially with networking. Think about networking, like, for example, if it's kind of like dating, right? Like if I go to my significant other and I say, date me on the first date, you think they're going to date me? No, right? You see, but it takes some time, 2 to 3 times, right? After the third one, then maybe, right? So always think about it in that way. And last but not least, think about it as if someone reached out to you and someone said what you were going to say to them, would you respond yourself? That's what I always like to say all the time.
What would you say would be the one reason that people are scared of networking? What myths can you debunk about networking that people are always so scared about?
Rejection. I think it's just all about self-rejecting. A lot of people won't reach out to someone. For example, they won't reach out to senior level people because they already expect them not to respond. If you already have the expectation of them not responding, then you're probably not going to get a response, right? So I think what's very key is, especially when reaching out to people, to not have that mindset. Have the mindset of, okay, like this is an opportunity for someone to actually connect back with me. You never know if you don't try, as I said before. And if you never ask, you never know. And if you never ask, the answer is always no. So always just reach out regardless. If someone doesn't respond to you, let's just say 100 people don't respond to you in a row, which I hope none of that happens, change your approach. I think one thing that's very key, especially with networking on LinkedIn, is that you should go to a LinkedIn post if they're content creators and go like and comment on it, and then go message them. Say, hey, I saw that your recent post in regards to XYZ. I really loved your insight about it. I'd love to just connect and stay following you so I can keep in touch. It's totally different than you just reaching out to someone blindly, right? So I would say just to tie it in, self-rejection. For those listening in today, don't self-reject yourself. I know it's more said than done, but don't self-reject yourself. It's very similar to applying to different jobs, etc.
I love that. It's so true. I think it's that fear of rejection, but you won't actually know unless you try, and it's worth putting in the effort, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We could be our biggest critics. So, I mean, everything's been really, really insightful. Awesome. So, I mean, one of the things that we noticed, and of course, paying attention, we were really impressed by a lot of your background and of course your transition into Wonsulting. So we noticed that your degree was actually like in not what really you're doing now, kind of it is, but like how does your degree when you first started like translate to what you're doing at Wonsulting?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people think that your degree defines what you have to get into, and in fact, it doesn't.
I say that all the time.
Right? It doesn't have to. I see a lot of people who are, for example, psychology degrees that are amazing recruiters. I think psychology is an amazing amazing major, right? So always remember that your background does not define you, nor does your degree. And why I say that is because for me, why I did finance was literally because I just wanted to learn more about stock investing. That's it. But it has nothing to do with my specific job right now. I think what happened, I think what many people should do if you have another interest that's outside of your major is start a side hustle. I think starting side hustles are fun. Side hustles should be fun. It should be tailored towards something that you really are interested in getting into. That's how Wonsulting started, because I love helping people with their resumes, with getting jobs, etc. Just start a side hustle. I know it's, like I said before, it's more said than done, but if you the hardest part is just starting. That's it. So.
Absolutely. So, I mean, that's something that we totally preach, and I have it written down here, like major does not equal career. And I think that sometimes since we deal with students, that's almost frustrating in a way to them, because I mean, they go to the school, they get a degree, and then we're like, hey, like what you've been doing doesn't necessarily translate, but like your skills are still there and you learn something valuable. But so what are some tips or advice that you would give to students to, like, when they're networking or crafting their materials, when they're looking at opportunities that maybe are outside their major, outside the industry, that would be like not normal as seen by other people, if that makes sense?
Unconventional strategies.
Right.
I love these. So one strategy that I'd suggest for those who are trying to get into a field that's not their major is go find people who are literally your same background that did not go into the same company or position as their major. How you can actually do this is very simple on LinkedIn. All you got to do is what I used to do all the time is, for example, I used to work in retail at Kohl's and Sherwin-Williams. So what I used to do is I put past company as Kohl's, and I put current company as a company that I specifically was interested in getting into. Let's just say Facebook. Now I found everybody that used to work at Kohl's that are now at Facebook. So now I know people who made the transition from one industry to another. I would highly recommend this. So for example, if you're trying to go from medical field to tech, what you can do is filter specifically past company, let's say Johnson & Johnson, and current company as Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook, whatever. Same thing you can do for accounting to tech. KPMG, put past company, KPMG, same thing, 5 companies, right? Then reach out to them and show them like, hey, I saw that you used to be in retail or used to be in XYZ, and now we're in XYZ. I'm trying to make the same pivot. I'd love to just connect with you in regards to hearing more about how you did it. You see? So that's, I think, is very key. I don't think a lot of people do that because I don't think a lot of people know how to do that. So if you're listening in today, try that out. I know a lot of different people through Wonsulting that have utilized that to pivot industries.
That is such a unique strategy on, how to find similar people that went through those situations. It's just, LinkedIn is so powerful, and there's so many really great resources. And I remember one time you mentioning during a previous webinar how you could type in the search engine happy to announce and end up finding, different recruiters based on posts. And I was just blown away by that.
Yeah, that's another strategy too as well. Like there's so many happy to announce posts out there, and a lot of people will then, like I said before, self-reject themselves because of it. I love those. The reason why I love those is because they always tag the hiring managers and recruiters. You never know if those hiring managers and recruiters are recruiting still. Go reach out to them. You never know.
Right.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. Joy, do you have anything to add?
I think you covered, a fair amount. I know we want to keep to our time because I'm sure you're busy and getting ready for your debut on TikTok.
No worries at all. No worries at all. I hope to see both of you there and everybody listening in.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for us before we kind of wrap up?
I was going to say, one of the questions I had is, what do you think your students are currently struggling with right now? And maybe I can provide an answer for that.
It's like you're like right in the classes this summer. So is there anything that's like glaring from the interactions you've had?
I think it sounds very basic, but I think a lot of students really struggle with how to appropriately market themselves and to not use templates. We always tell them stay away from templates, try and be unique. Don't use the same one that recruiters see 100 times over and over. So I think those would be like the 2 main ones. And I feel like a lot of people don't have confidence in themselves. So they feel that they don't deserve to portray themselves in a certain way because they're almost lying, right? And a lot of them aren't aware of those essential skills that they have and competencies. So kind of helping them discover that and how to really market yourself correctly. So any advice on that would help.
Love that. I'll answer the first one for market yourself first. So I think I totally agree with you. Templates, like I post specific things that I would say, make it into your own spin. Like if people copied templates, literally everybody would be saying the same thing over and over again, right? So uh, if you see a template out there, if you see something from Wonsulting and we say like this, send this, make it into your own spin. We're not saying copy literally word by word. Why you do that is then because you share your story specifically with that person. I would actually, I know a lot of people say reach out to recruiters. I would actually recommend if you like recruiters you can reach out to, but that's like, for example, if they're specifically recruiting for a role and they post about it on LinkedIn. And why I say this is because recruiters are probably the ones who are getting hit up the most in regards to like, oh my gosh, I need a job, blah, 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 right? Instead, you should reach out to hiring. I think hiring managers are even better because they're the extra level specifically with you getting the job because they're going to be basically your manager. So that's another part. And secondly, too, as well, is always remember that if you're trying to market yourself on social media, you don't always have to just do it by yourself. What I say is build your brand off other people's brands. Very simple. What you do is go find someone who's in your niche or someone who is in, let's say you're trying to get into data science and you see someone posting about data science all the time, go comment something. Just comment, be like, hey, I love this insight. I would actually add XYZ, because then you're building your brand off their brand. And guess who their followers are? Their followers are other data science people who are going to see your post. So I would totally recommend doing that if you're trying to market yourself, because then you build your brand off another person's brand. And then the second part is the confidence piece. The confidence piece is definitely something that a lot of people can't get over, and that's totally fine. I think how you get confidence is, of course, obviously, number one, believing in yourself, but also having someone hold you accountable. Accountability buddy, I like to call it. Have a friend hold you accountable and hold them accountable. If you're both in your job search, make it a goal for both of you to reach X amount of positions you're applying to, X amount of positions or people you're networking with. Have a contest. It's like a friendly contest in game. And why I say this is exactly how I was able to attain my goals. If you can see in the background, it's all about having accountability. So that's how you gain that confidence, because then you and that other person are supporting each other to reach those goals and accomplish those ambitions.
Yeah, and that goes hand in hand with social support, right? You need to have people supporting you to feel good and gain that confidence. And I like that. What was it called again? Accountability
Buddy. I mix accountability and buddy.
I love that so much. Yeah, Chelsea, do you have any other questions? Or
I don't really have any other questions, just immense praise. Thank you so much for taking your time. This was like the most we could absolutely hope for. You're just so cool, and I love your journey and all these different things, all the impact that you talked about. It really, really resonates. And it's inspiring, truly, as a professional, and for our students, they'll appreciate it.
And I was gonna say, everybody listening in, definitely utilize your career services and career center. I'm serious. Like, I wish I utilized mine more. When I was a fourth year, I utilized it, but I never utilized it really when I was a freshman, sophomore, or junior. Remember that your career services are always there for you in regards to, number one, figuring out what you want to do in your career, but also, for example, they might know some people in the positions that you were interested in. So go to your career center.
Shameless plug.
Jonathan, thank you so much for hyping us up. Hopefully we have more students, coming in and meeting with us, and good luck tonight. We are going to be tuning in. I'm very excited and cheering you on. So thank you for your time, and you're awesome. Hopefully we'll stay in touch. I know, Chelsea, we'll end up getting your address. We're going to send you a little goodie bag.
Ooh.
And
awesome.
A little something merch from UCM, but we also wanted to take a screenshot, which Chelsea's going to take, so we can give you a shout out on LinkedIn. So
please
I'm going to stop recording, but we'll do that. So
awesome. Let's do it.
Thanks, everyone.